Well, I look at the last however many election cycles. 2018, we lost the House. We lost the Senate. 2020, Biden becomes president. We lost the Senate in 2020. Biden becomes president and has done a huge amount of damage. Very unpopular in 2022. And we were supposed to have this big red wave. And other than like Florida and Iowa, I didn't see a red wave across this country. And so I think the party has developed a culture of losing. I think that there's not accountability.
That was Florida Governor Ron DeSantis, and he's sick of Republicans being called losers. And DeSantis makes absolutely clear who he thinks is responsible for that, even if he still can't bring himself to say the name out loud.
And ultimately, when you're doing all this, what results are you producing for people? That's really what matters. You can sit there and talk about cable news, social media, all these other things that people are fixated on. And for me, it's like, okay, what's that true north? You obviously got to win, otherwise you don't get a ticket to the dance. But once you do that, how are you going to be able to actually bring about big change to make people's lives better?
Now, you might think, hey, Ron DeSantis is right. We should be more focused on what elected officials actually deliver. But there's a reason Ron DeSantis doesn't want you paying attention to social media or cable news, because it's full of stuff like this.
Ron DeSantis is, quote, the most overpriced stock in American politics, which is, I'm an economics guy. Yes. So when you say things like that, I pay attention. Talk to me about that. When Ron DeSantis speaks, there was always a theory that if Ron DeSantis and Donald Trump made it to a debate together, Donald Trump would eat them alive because Donald Trump eats a lot of people alive at these things. Ron DeSantis may be doing all the things necessary to be a presidential candidate, but when we see him as an actual presidential candidate, a lot of people are going to be a bit surprised.
And it wasn't just the libs over at the MSNBC who were quick to cast doubt on Meatball Ron's political future. Even DeSantis's allies are starting to wonder whether the pressure is getting to him. Take this awkward segment on Fox News, which until recently was a pretty big DeSantis supporter.
That where Ron DeSantis really messed up here, and I'm surprised nobody in the media has picked up on this yet, is one of those special privileges that Disney had that he rolled back was legislated under none other than Ron DeSantis. Actually, he passed a political anti-discrimination statute saying that owners of websites and internet companies, this includes Disney, could not discriminate based on the basis of viewpoints. Except they carved out Disney. They said if you own a theme park greater than 25 acres in the state of Florida, that was carved out. So when Ron DeSantis struck back at Disney, he says they enjoy these special protections. The dirty little secret is one of those special crony capitalist protections was passed by Ron DeSantis himself.
It's been a tough few weeks for Ron DeSantis. Not only is he escalating his increasingly unpopular war with Disney, a slew of recent polls show the DeSantis campaign losing steam before it's even gone live. And Ron's problems are evident in almost every poll. An Emerson poll from January found DeSantis drawing nearly 30% of Republican voters. That same Emerson poll conducted last month shows him at just 16%, and almost all of his supporters have moved back to Donald Trump. And when Ron DeSantis is afraid, he turns to the only tool on his belt, terrorizing minorities. At least that seemed to be the theme of his latest press conference, where DeSantis signed a new law that defunds diversity programs in Florida schools. Among other things, DeSantis wanted to make crystal clear that if you're trying to study all that race and gender stuff, you are not welcome in Florida universities.
If you want to do things like gender ideology, go to Berkeley, go to some of these other places. That's fine. It's fine. And there's nothing, if that's what you want to do, there's nothing wrong with that. Per se, but for us, with our tax dollars, we want to focus on the classical mission of what a university is supposed to be. We don't want to be diverted into a lot of these niche subjects that are heavily politicized. We want to focus on the basic.
That's right. Ron DeSantis wants the world to know you definitely shouldn't come to Florida if you want a competitive college education. After all, they're still working on the basics, like how evolution isn't real and stuff. But hey, spring break! And Ron wants you to know that he's just looking out for your best interests. So please, stop with all the protests, you unemployable hippies.
First of all, how employable are you with some of these majors? I mean, really, it's not a good academic choice in terms of being able to be employable. That's one of the reasons I think this whole student loan thing, universities should be on the hook for the student loans. If that were the case, they would make sure that their curriculum was really fit to be productive for the students.
And behind all this is a simple plan to erase the parts of history that portray Republicans badly. And that's most history, honestly. But as study after study has shown, the better educated Americans are, the less likely they are to believe Republican lies. And Ron didn't hold back about his hatred of diversity in particular.
And what this does is reorient our universities back to their traditional mission. And part of that traditional mission is to treat people as individuals, not to try to divvy them up based on any type of superficial characteristics. We're going to elevate merit and achievement above identification with certain groups. And in order to do that, we had to look at this new concept, relatively new concept, called diversity, equity, and inclusion. And I didn't know much. I mean, this is something relatively recent.
Yeah, that was Ron DeSantis saying the concept of diversity is a relatively recent one. And under his leadership, it's one that has no place in Florida schools. Ron DeSantis isn't content to be your priest and your doctor. Now he wants to be your teacher, too. Ron DeSantis is showing us exactly what he'll do to America if he wins the presidency in 2024. His America has no place for disagreement, no place for diversity, and more likely than not, no place for you either. Floridians have chosen to make Ron DeSantis the king of Florida. It's up to the rest of the country to make sure Florida's weird brand of hillbilly autocracy stays confined to the Sunshine State. And if you think that's all the GOP has been up to, take a look at this video. And as always, consider subscribing and leave a comment below so you can let me know what I should cover next.